I'm Linda Gustafson, and I'm actually just standing in for Stephanie Van Orstrom this morning to welcome you to a special presentation that is sponsored by Voices from the Prairie. Voices from the Prairie is a local grassroots citizens movement that commits to upholding the values of tolerance, fairness, and inclusion in American society and political life. We understand that there is no more important voice than that of the well-informed citizenry, and we're really glad you're here to learn the information about the upcoming referendum. And in that spirit, in addition to the presentation, there will be voter registration for anyone who has moved or anyone who is not registered today. At 11 o'clock, out of this, right outside of this room, we'll be registering voters for at least an hour. So all of that being said, I would like to introduce Lindsay Vaughn, also from Voices from the Prairie, who will serve as the moderator for this special informational presentation. Lindsay.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Voices from the Prairie is a transpartisan organization focused on civic education and engagement. During the primary season, we promoted the importance of voting and participating in the electoral process through a series of educational panels and candidate forums, and we're continuing this programming as we approach the general election on November 6th. We hope you'll come back and join us on Saturday, September 29th at 10 a.m. to discuss the Bureau County Public Safety Sales Tax Referendum, and on Saturday, October 6th at 10 a.m. to meet the candidates running for the offices of Bureau County Clerk and Bureau County Treasurer. But today we're here to learn about a proposed $35 million bond issue for the construction of a new school in the Princeton Elementary School District. This will appear as a referendum on the November ballot. The referendum asks voters the following. Shall the Board of Education of Princeton School District number 115, Bureau and Putnam Counties, Illinois, acquire two sites, build and equip a school building on one of the acquired sites and improve said site, abate asbestos at and demolish the Lincoln Elementary and Logan Junior High School buildings, alter, repair, and equip the Douglas Elementary and Jefferson Elementary School buildings, and issue bonds of said school district to the amount of $35 million for the purpose of paying the costs thereof. So there's a lot involved in that to unpack, and PES Superintendent Tim Smith is here with us this morning to share some background on the district's needs and its plans in order to help us better understand why these funds may be needed, how they may be used, so that we can make informed choices on Election Day. After his presentation, he may have time to answer some questions before we close the meeting. Mr. Smith, thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, I would like to thank, on behalf of the Board of Education, Voices from the Prairie, for this opportunity. We're trying to get, I think I have 11 presentations planned at this point in time. 4 of them are official public forums that the school district themselves are hosting. We had our first one on Thursday evening of this past week. Had the opportunity to visit with the Farm Bureau on Monday night, and of course your group this morning. So it means a lot to us as a district to have groups reach out to us to try to learn more about the upcoming proposal. And that's kind of where I begin my presentation is just with that. It's a proposal, it's a proposition. I think a lot of people, when I visit with people in the community or when I get invited to meetings in the community, their impression is that I'm going to come out and I'm going to endorse the referendum to the community, and that's really not my responsibility or my role. My role is to represent the Board of Education and to share with the community the facts of the proposal and the rationale that the board had for putting the proposition before the voters. So that's what my intent is today, like the other presentations. But first we'll start with a timeline as it relates to the building planning that we've been going through. We started, or the Board of Education actually formally started back in 2015. It was actually November of 2015 that the Board of Education began a study of our current facilities. If you're not familiar with our facilities, and I presume most of you are, we have Douglas Elementary School that is our pre-kindergarten and kindergarten building, and that is located, of course, on North Euclid, or LaSalle specifically. We have Jefferson Elementary, which is over on Putnam near the fairgrounds. That is a first and second grade building. We have a third and fourth grade building, which is Lincoln School, and that is, of course, south of the high school on Euclid, south of Peru by about a block. And then we have our Logan Junior High, which houses 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade over on Central Street. The district also owns the Reagan School building in Tiscawal. You may or may not be familiar with the fact that the Board of Education did close that as a student attendance center. However, we do currently have 2 tenants in that building to offset the cost of that. When you abandon a building like that, you pull students away from a building like that, you still have cost. You still have to have a fire alarm, you still have to have insurance, there are still costs associated with a building, whether there's students there or not. So we've been fortunate to house the Bureau Marshall Putnam Special Education Cooperative there. As of this fall, we have welcomed the Bureau County Special Schools to that facility as well. And that generates about $75,000 in revenue for us. So that's been a good trade-off for us, because as our student population was shifting and we were sending more kids towards Tiscawal than we were bringing north, the board made the difficult decision, and as of course you might understand, that was not an easy decision to make, particularly when you have a small community like Tiscawal that believes in their building. So we still own that building, but it's really not a piece of this question here. So I wanted to give you kind of an understanding. So in November of 2015, the Board of Education embarked on a study of our facilities. And we have an architect that we've had for a number of years, Cometz Architects, who has helped us with that planning. They brought in another team of architects, Leggett Architects, to assist because our firm over in LaSalle is quite small. We also had Pepper Construction to help with analyzing cost and to try to give us a better understanding of what costs really are associated with some of the facility planning that we're looking at. So from 2015 all the way to the following December of 2016, we went through a master planning process, and we had as many as 30 members serve on that committee, and it was an incredible cross-section of members from our community. We had agriculture represented, we had retired community members represented, we had the legal profession represented, we had clergy represented in that, we had a realtor that served on that. We really tried hard to get a good cross-section. We had great reception to that. Most of the people that served on that were very good about coming and serving with us. We also, of course, had some parents and Princeton Elementary staff, too, to get different perspectives as to, okay, here's what we have currently in terms of buildings. What are our options? Well, that master plan committee worked very, very hard, along with the architects and the administration and so forth. And in analyzing our buildings, that committee said, let's do this. Let's start and see what one site means to our district. What would one campus be like, okay? And then let's also look at what it would mean to fix up our current facilities. And when I say fix up, I mean a pretty substantial renovation. Basically bring them back to code, okay? Modernize them with new mechanical systems, abate the asbestos issues that we have in the flooring, probably new lighting, new window treatment, or, new windows themselves, and more proper lighting for the buildings, roofing, that type of thing. So it'd be pretty substantial, tuck pointing. So we looked at that as well. The master plan committee then in December of 2016 took that proposal to the Board of Education. The one site campus for a pre-K through 8th grade building was reviewed, and the cost came in at just under $60 million for a one site campus. To renovate our current buildings and bring them up to code was going to be to the tune of almost $40 million. $39,300,000. So the board studied that and realized that there was an election that was coming up in April. The board said we're not ready to go forward, particularly with those price tags. So instead, what happened is the Board of Education in January, the following month, January of 17, passed a motion, and the motion read like this: First, the ballot question was with regard to the $60 million again for a one-site campus and or the $39 million in renovations. The board instead decided on January 12, 2017 to review those costs more extensively, the $60 million and the $39 million. Let's take some time and let's work to understand them. Let's not go and put something on the April ballot in 2016. Evaluate the cost associated with those two projects as it would relate to taxpayers. This is a key one. Evaluate other possible financing options. Review, evaluate, and recommend other feasible solutions, something other than renovation of all of our buildings and something other than a one-site campus, and evaluate any efficiencies that might be gained through those recommended solutions. And the goal was to report back by June 1st of 2018. So I had a pretty nice window to work towards meeting the board's motion here from January 12th to June, of 17 to June of 2018. What I've told people is that time just went like that because there was so much involved. And one of the things that occurred was the fact that we were working with an architectural firm out of Oak Brook, and the Board of Education, by the recommendation of the administration, chose to part ways with that architectural firm and begin working with another firm. In fact, we went out for what is called RFQ, request for qualifications, and literally received submissions from 13 architectural firms. We interviewed 4. The reason we chose to go a different direction away from the firm that we had been using is because they were bringing us proposals that were not appropriate for our community or for our intent. Specifically, there was a green roof that they had put in the conceptual design. Now, a green roof is basically a roof with vegetation on trees, plants, tables out there, things like that. We tried to express to them numerous times, listen, this is Bureau County, we've got cornfields, soybeans, we got grass there, we do not need a green roof. We're not going to try to sell a green roof. The other issue was that they were proposing a single load hallway, which is basically a hallway where classrooms, and you'll see them on university campuses a lot, where classrooms are on one side and the other wall is basically glass. And we kept saying to them, we cannot propose, even consider taking a proposition like that to our voters because we need to, take advantage of square footage as efficiently as we can. So once we realized that they weren't listening to us, we had to shift gears. So that's why that period from January of 2017 to June of 2018 went like that, because we kind of had to start over and find a different architectural firm to work with. However, we were able to engage Healy Bender Architects out of Naperville, and they are the same, and this was a major piece for us, because they were responsible for the Hall High School and the Peru Elementary, Parkside, and Northview buildings. We had toured them many times, talked to the administration, and when we toured them, we realized these are appropriate buildings. These are built for this type of building that we would require. Nothing crazy elaborate. I mean, you can go crazy on these things, trust me, and I know you know that, and architects like to design fancy buildings. One of the proposals was a garage door, literally, that could come up and down from your classroom, and their whole purpose of that was, well, we can extend your classroom out into the hallway. We're like, we don't want that. First of all, those garage doors are going to break. It's going to be more money. The more those things go up and down, the more, there's potential for problems and costs. So we've been very pleased with Healy Bender out of Naperville, as we have been with Bush Construction out of Davenport, Iowa. And they are the construction manager that the board has engaged. No payment to these people, but they're engaged with us because they invest their time, because they, of course, are interested in the project as well. But Bush Construction out of Davenport is responsible for budgeting and timeline, keeping us on timeline. So we continue to work towards the satisfying the motion that the board had passed in January of 2017. This fall, we took the proposal to the Board of Education, and this is the proposal itself specifically. And I'll explain the rationale as we go as well for this. This is a new 3rd through 8th grade building that you'll see over here, and it is conceptual. Okay, this is a conceptual design, as it says right here. Basically, what we've been trying to accomplish with our architects is how much square footage do we need to make sure we have enough classrooms for regular classrooms. Special ed rooms. Do we have enough special ed rooms? What size do those special ed rooms need to be? Do we have a room for the speech therapist? Do we have space for the physical therapist and the occupational therapist? Because I will tell you, as we speak today, we currently do not. Much of that therapy actually has to take place at the end of a hallway, or possibly in a classroom or a vacant room, if possible. But we're trying to take into consideration square footage. What do we need? No more, no less. And so this 3rd through 8th grade facility is just about 110,000 square foot. When I compared this 3rd through 8th grade facility with Lincoln and Logan, this is about 3,500 square foot larger than those two buildings. But that's to accommodate, what we've added here is space for the therapies, space for the remedial teachers, space for the paraprofessionals or the aides that tutor kids, and space for the district office. So we feel like we've been really efficient in square footage here, because we've only increased what we currently have for Lincoln and Logan by 3,500 square foot, and we've been able to capture space for all the programs that we have. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. Because I'm going to go, I want to go here first, and Lindsay read the proposition to you. And so I'm going to read it again, but I'm going to go line by line and give you an understanding of how that or how the board's rationale relates to this proposition. First of all, the first line of the proposition is, shall the Board of Education of Princeton School District number 115, Bureau in Putnam County, Illinois, acquire 2 sites? First of all, what I want to make sure everybody understands is the reason Putnam County is in that question is because we actually have some district homes that attend Princeton Elementary in the Putnam County area. It's like 2 farms. So as a result, we have to have the ballot question available to them as well. Acquire 2 sites. The sites that the proposition talks about acquiring is right over here. This is the current Dover Road. This is our district office, Princeton district office. This is Liberty Village. And so just to the north is a tract of 44 acres that we were not successfully able to get subdivided. This was available to us, as were some other properties that we looked at. But in working with our architects, the construction manager and their engineers, and with the city, this was deemed the most appropriate site in terms of construction, in terms of prep of the land, in terms of infrastructure that's already there, water lines, sewer, things like that, road access. So that's one of the sites. The other site is actually north of Jefferson. It's a smaller tract of 15 acres. And why is that interesting to the board? Because if you've been to Jefferson at the end of the school day, we have a real serious problem there with traffic that backs out of our property onto Putnam Street. Okay? We've got parents coming through there. We've got bus traffic coming through there. We have to, as a result, we take several of our buses and we have to go around the back of the bus to the north side of the building to load students. The problem with that is those buses, to leave the campus, actually have to go into reverse and back off the property. And thankfully, we've not had up to this point any issues with that, but it is a major concern to us. The congestion that we currently have over at Jefferson. So the intent of that land relates, even though it's part of phase one, it's in this question, the intent of that land is to give us the space to allow us to do a better job of facilitating car traffic and bus traffic and to keep them apart from each other. Because what I tell people is that this proposition that the board is proposing is obviously a proposition that is intended to last this community 75, 90, 100 years. So that's a big task to really try to look into the future. And what we've experienced at Princeton Elementary is the fact that virtually everybody, if they're not on a bus, the kid, the student, they're probably going to get brought to school in a car. Very few of our kids are walking to school or riding bikes to school. So the congestion is just that much more of an issue for us. Jefferson happens to be our best building in terms of traffic though. Even though there's problems there, if you live near Lincoln or Logan or Douglas, those buildings were built as neighborhood schools where all the students walked to the facility. We are no longer neighborhood schools, and we are grade sites. Why are we grade sites? We can be more efficient if we put our grade levels all in one building. We can balance class sizes. We can balance achievement of learners. We can just do so many more things if we put same age grade levels in these buildings. So that's the reason that is included in this proposition. That's second site. The next line says build and equip. I apologize, I need to go back on the sites here again. So one of the questions I know has come up, and legitimately so, because I have the same question, is this property here and the other property, we have no contract. We've had no attorneys involved in it. It's been conversations that I have had along with my building and grounds director with the landowners. And it's basically, I'm telling you, it's a gentleman's agreement that we've gotten to, because, and the press has done a phenomenal job of covering this the entire 3 years. I mean, they've been with us and at our master plan committee meetings and at our board meetings, things like that. In negotiating this, we looked at like sales, similar types of sales that had occurred in our community as it relates to property like this. And what I had to learn myself is that we're not buying farmland. Yes, it's farmland now, but we're not buying it for that usage. So that totally changes the equation. I had to learn that too. So to give you an understanding of some things that have occurred. In 2006, Liberty Village, down here, bought their land from the same landowner, and they paid, at that time, $19,715 an acre. So 12 years later, we're at $20,000 an acre. So we thought, okay, I wonder if we can get it for that. You know, I wonder if they share that deal with us. In February of 2008, so we're talking 10 years ago, the Park District, as you may or may not recall, bought some property for the Zering Park, 5 acres, at approximately $33,000 per acre. In November of 2008, the city of Princeton bought for its industrial park a tract of 134.45 acres for $26,000 an acre. And in July of 2015, a little over 3 years ago, behind the Casey's General Store on Peru, along Gassi Boulevard, there's Diamond Senior Living Apartments. If you're familiar with those, there's a new development in there. They bought 7.43 acres for $46,433 an acre. So the agreement that we currently have, we believe, or the board does, and when I say we, it's the Board of Education, believes that we're at a good point there. We're at a good point on the price. This is the next sentence in the proposal. Build and equip a school building on one of the acquired sites, which is here, the 3rd through 8th grade building, and improve said site, parking lots, landscaping, stormwater detention, playgrounds, things like that. That's the improvements. And so to talk about the improvements a little bit, because here at the district office, and here at St. Matthew's Church, and for people that live on Euclid, we've all experienced substantial stormwater issues here. So that was our concern from the very beginning. And in talking with our engineers that are associated with the architectural firm and the city's engineers, they're the experts, okay? The Board of Education is putting our faith and trust in their professional judgment. Their position is that we can not just improve it, but potentially solve the issue by creating 2 storm water detention ponds. Now, detention ponds are those that fill up at the time of the storm, and then they drain slowly into the stormwater sewer. Retention holds the water all the time. These would be virtually empty when the storms came, fill up, and then go out into stormwater sewers over a period of, I think it's like 2 days, possibly. The other idea was, because we could not subdivide this property, because here's what's happening. I mean, there was a lot of talk about Liberty Village being the main source of this, but if you go out to Route 34, when it rains really hard, the water's coming from up here, and you can see it. If you look closely at this, you can see the dark flow of the water. And it comes down here and across this field, right? Right into the parking lot of St. Matthew's, across Dover Road, over to Euclid. That's how the water travels. St. Matthew's, on the corner of their parking lot, they have a box drain. It literally looks like a box, but it's got water can go in through the side when it comes down the ditch or in the bottom of it. The problem with that is it constantly fills up with debris, corn, husk. And from a long distance, it just comes flying across. There's a culvert that crosses Route 34, the water comes flying under, and then it just comes across like that, plugs the drains, which is a whole other issue. So, the intent would be then to have 2 stormwater detentions to capture that stormwater that's coming from the north, but then 2, to make this alfalfa, an alfalfa field that would help detain the water and act as a filter for any corn debris or soybean debris that's coming out off those fields to the north. Actually filter that out and capture it before it gets to these drains. That's the intent. That alfalfa would it would be cash rented, that property would be cash rented, the alfalfa would be harvested, and it would be baled. Because we don't want to cut it like we do our grass and then have that grass become the issue for the drains. It would literally be cut, baled, hauled away, and allowed to grow. The next part of the ballot question is abate asbestos and demolish Lincoln Elementary and Logan Junior High. So first, abatement. Before you can demolish a building, you have to abate the asbestos, which, as you know, in these older buildings is pretty predominant. It's contained. The board's not saying, oh, we need to build new building because of the asbestos. That's not the issue. It's just that we have to abate it if we're going to demolish the 2 buildings. Why does the Board of Education believe that their proposition has to say to the community that Lincoln and Logan would be demolished? Because all you have to do is go to Tiskawal and look at the high school down there. The community there, when they consolidated with us, the high school was sold to a developer with probably good intentions. I believe ran out of money. The high school sits there, and the raccoons and possums come and go freely. There's vegetation growing out the roof. It's a blighted building. So the Board of Education does not believe that's the responsible thing to do to our community. Because that's what school districts do, honestly. And you guys, they sell buildings for $10 just to get rid of them to somebody that has maybe good intentions, but then does nothing with them, and then everybody living around Lincoln and everybody living around Logan is dealing with a blighted building, potentially. When those buildings come down, the intent of the district is not just to keep green space. The intent would then be to sell to a responsible developer. So that's the intent of the demolition of the buildings. It goes on further to say, alter, repair, and equip the Douglas Elementary and Jefferson Elementary school buildings. Obviously, this would have new HVAC systems. The proposal, the proposition would allow for, at Douglas, window air conditioners. To have window air conditioners put in, we would have to do electrical upgrades to that building. There are some other repairs that we would make, or some improvements. One being we build a more secure entrance to that building for school security sake. Okay? And also improve surveillance of that building, cameras. I just spent the better part of my day yesterday in Chicago at a symposium or whatever, school safety and it was all had to do with how you can use surveillance to improve your school security. Amazing stuff. I won't get into that, but it's amazing stuff. The reason we would limit the improvements at Douglas is because the intent would be down the line, close Douglas and move those students to Jefferson and add on at Jefferson. How would the district do that? The district is on a 2006, so 12 years ago, we applied and were placed on a capital construction fund list. That money would, when received, now I understand it's Illinois and that's 12 years ago, but that money when received would finish the work that the board has in mind as a phase 2. In other words, don't go back to the taxpayers. Take the capital construction money, do the demolition, responsible abatement and demolition at Douglas, put the classrooms on that are necessary at Jefferson, and complete the improvements that are necessary there, and the district would be down to 2 campuses. Now remember, the master plan was interested in 1. Financially, we can't get there. That was a $59 million price tag. But the hope is that we could get down to 2 campuses for $35 million, taking into consideration the capital construction dollars. Now again, it's Illinois. Can we guarantee that money will come? Absolutely not. Please help me preach that to the community, because I do not want to be responsible for the state of Illinois' actions. But what I will tell you is this. Peru Elementary did this very thing. Peru Elementary built their junior high Parkside and waited and waited and waited. 6 years later, after they built their facility, they got a call, Mark Cross, your capital construction dollars are being released. They took that money, they tore down their Roosevelt Middle School,